Hey, so let us go on this voyage one more time. And I mean it, let's bring it all together, the past, the present and the future. If you don't remember how it all started, this will bring you back. This is big. ABBA is all over the world. There is a brand new website simply called ABBA Voyage. What is it? I don't know. What about ABBA's new music? I don't know. Hey. So, earlier this year, Björn has said that new ABBA music will finally be released later this year, and even manager Jurel Hanse said that it is a firm promise. Hey. So, ABBA is back. I can't believe what I'm saying here. All of this happened in September and November last year, and since then a few months have passed and we have been spoiled to discover ABBA's brand new album over and over again. Let's bring together our thoughts and experiences. First off, I really need to stress this. I think the greatest thing about all of it is the fact that we are talking about an album, that the world is finally focusing on an album again. Of course, we have always been talking about ABBA's albums, but in recent years, the general public was not really aware of those. Again, I'm generally speaking, they were more familiar with some selections of those albums. And that's what it's usually about, with every band really. It has people discover and rediscover those songs, and it is certainly a big reason why we have Voyage. So that they are now talking about an entire ABBA album is my greatest experience as a fan. Because this is what ABBA really is about. They are masters of creating albums. A very recent wonderful comment by King Marsh Music encouraged my thoughts and nailed it. ABBA Gold continues to sell by the bucket loads, and that's great, but for me, the true magic of ABBA is in their albums, their deep cuts, and their diversity. Voyage is the perfect example of what ABBA is all about. Beautiful melodies and harmonies, interesting and varied arrangements, instrumentation, incredible vocals, thoughtful and ambiguous lyrics that are open to interpretations and to heart and soul. That sounds exactly like their glorious 8 albums from before. You might remember all of our considerations before we got Voyage. Will it match ABBA's classic legacy? Can it be a seamless part of it after all this time? This is what my friend Sam said back then.
There's new music, and even after 4 years of delay, parts of me still aren't quite ready. Because your entire life you listen to the same and somewhat completed body of work, and suddenly there's something new. It's really strange, and my guess is that it will feel strange for a long time, even if the songs are great. They will always be the new ones for us living right now.
So how did this change? Just recently, Sam and I also discussed how Voyage is the perfect example which brings together everything that ABBA is about, and how it really reflects their legacy. Their previous album, The Visitors, was dark and melancholic. It really reflected that period in ABBA's life, and it was a perfect album to close that first chapter. It was fitting in a way, but it would have been ABBA's final album. It was for 40 years. Would it have been a reflection of ABBA's life from today? I think that's why Voyage was so important and why even Björn said that it was the missing piece of their story.
It's like, there was something missing. And I didn't know it, but it feels now as though this was the missing piece. This was what was supposed to happen at this moment.
As that final album, it is a most perfect reflection of their life, music and legacy, as it is and has become over the decades. There is so much within this album. During our Voyage series, I realized again just how much variety the album has, with so many genres and styles. Now, this is my personal opinion, but I even think on Voyage they have the most variety from all of their albums. That doesn't mean there is no variety in the other 8 albums, quite on the contrary. Voulez-vous is just one example of how many different styles they could offer, and they even showed that variety on their very first albums. So in a way, Voyage does come full circle with those early albums, But on those, of course, they were really more like trying to find their style. Now, they have 50 years of experience, and that's the big and important difference. It now is the complete development. I personally even feel that all of their solo work, everything they did between 1982 and Voyage, feels more like being part of the ABBA story than ever before. It's not ABBA, it is still their solo material, but it all somehow leads the way to culminate in Voyage, similar to their early solo recordings that would culminate in ABBA's first album Ring Ring. But Voyage is also a perfect continuation from ABBA's last two albums. To understand that, let's take a look at all 9 albums. They tell a story. And they can basically be split into 3 sections with 3 albums each. First, we have the first 3 albums where they were, as I said, searching for their true ABBA sound. They found it on their appropriately self-titled album ABBA, with songs like Mamma Mia and SOS. The 3 middle chapters tell the story of their worldwide success and development in music, lyrics and vocal delivery. And the final 3 albums, now with Voyage, are a grand trilogy of melancholic reflection. Musically, there are many similarities we have discovered during our journey. Just on our last episode about Ode to Freedom, we discussed how the last 2 songs in all 3 albums are literally linked together. On Super Trooper by the sound of applause, on The Visitors by the ticking of a clock, and on Voyage by an extraordinary long silence. It brings those final 2 songs closer to each other, as if time is running out. And there are many more connections. The Super Trooper album is often praised for its coherent atmosphere. One of the big reasons is Benny, who is all over the place with his instruments. He is responsible for so many layers of the instrumental backing tracks, with occasional outside players adding drums, guitars and a few more exotic instruments to his soundscape. The same can be said about Voyage, where overall Benny is very much responsible for the coherent sound with his synthesizers. One of the prime examples is the song Bumblebee. We also mentioned several other references between songs from both albums. I Still Have Faith in You and Ode to Freedom both have similarities to The Way Old Friends Do. They all have an epic quality, but also similar lyrical themes about love, friendship and strong bonds, about uncertainty and that feeling of hope. We also observed a similar structure and exotic feeling between When You Danced With Me and The Piper. Sam mentioned similar vibes between Keep an Eye on Dan and Lay All Your Love on Me, and for no doubt about it, he is reminded of Elaine, a B-side from the Super Trooper period. And Even Little Things continues the seasonal spirit of Happy New Year. If we take a look into The Visitors, a similar coherent atmosphere can be found. And we talked about the similarity between I Still Have Faith in You and I Let the Music Speak, both of them having a theatrical vibe. Don't Shut Me Down has a bass line that is very reminiscent of One of Us. And on our episode about Keep an Eye on Dan, we talked about similarities in structure and mood between that song and The Visitors. But don't get me wrong, with all of these references, I can't stress enough that each song is truly unique and that all of these recurring details simply show how much of ABBA's DNA is captured within their new album and how it all is really one complete work. And that work is full of ambiguity. ABBA has always been about light and shadows, about that mixture between melancholia and sadness and uplifting joy. It's reflected on Voyage, the contrasting A and B side of the album, but also the variety between every second track, between up-tempo and slow ballads. It's reflected in the artwork. What do we see? Is it the rising of the sun? Or is it going down? We don't know. It's all possible. Is this a comeback album? Or is it farewell? We know what Björn and Benny say about that, but how does it feel? To me, it feels like both. It's that ambiguity we love about ABBA. And with all the variety on Voyage that we discovered, they still managed to make this album into one coherent work, one incredible journey. And there is one fascinating theme that brings all songs together. Kenny White left a wonderful comment opening my eyes. All the songs on this album are about relationships of one type or another. I Still Have Faith in You is about a union, still in it together, faith in each other, self-belief. When You Danced With Me deals with a past relationship, the good old days, wondering if it can be rekindled. Little Things tells us about a shared appreciation as parents about their life together with their children and the little moments of happiness and bliss. Don't Shut Me Down is about coming together again after breakup, changed, learning to cope, love and hope.
Baba.
Just a Notion is about the hope that this is the one, the right relationship, destiny, dancing through the night, knowing everything will be right. Which in turn ties into When You Dance With Me, or even the preceding track, Don't Shut Me Down. And the theme of relationship continues on side B. I Can Be That Woman, another song about change in a relationship, regrets for past actions and the desire to make things better. Keep an Eye on Dan, relationship between parent, child and ex-partner who shares custody. Bumblebee, the relationship with our environment. No doubt about it tells us about the omission of fault in a relationship and the desire to make amends, which again is a good thematic link to the previous track. And Ode to Freedom is about the relationship with everyone, about the desire for all to be free and in unison with that concern about how what we say and do will be perceived by others. And as I said last time, when we set the album on loop, when we return to the first track, we continue with exactly those themes. Kenny White says, these different relationships are a selection of what an individual may experience at various stages in life, and the listener will relate more to some of them than others, depending on their own situation. The wide variety in subject matter and style could only have been written and expressed so well because of the collective life experiences of ABBA over the years, which has contributed so much to this major album. On another video, Mike Diorio said something that is very fitting to these thoughts. He believes that the album could as well be called Voyages, as every song is an individual voyage through a person's life. All of this goes back to Björn's lyrics, but also to every other aspect that makes these songs. As Kenny White said, storytelling is one of the things ABBA do brilliantly. And it's the combination between lyrics, music and the expression in their voices. My friend Sam nailed it when he said that it is not only remarkable how high and low Agneta and Frida can sing, and they prove their range most superior on this very album. But how they can slip into these different characters is as remarkable to tell all of those life stories. Frida switches from a loving grandmother on Bumblebee to a warrior on No Doubt About It. A wonderful statement from Debs. And Agneta gives us hope on Don't Shut Me Down, just to take us into the raw sadness on I Can Be That Woman. And you know, back in the beginning when I said how the world is talking about an ABBA album, the most wonderful thing about that is how all four members are finally getting that individual praise. Björn is praised for his lyrics, Agneta and Frida for their individual vocal and storytelling ability, Benny for the masterful music he's been composing for decades. The world now not only talks about a new ABBA album, they talk about ABBA here and now. We are experiencing and talking about ABBA in the present tense in 2021. This is a total eclipse in our lives, an eclipse for the whole world to experience, not for just a few. The photography videos bear witness to the eclipse. Rare, majestic, unprecedented, and beautiful a moment in time and space. I never experienced that. It was always, oh, ABBA, that band from the 70s and 80s, they were amazing. They changed that perception with Voyage. As I said before in another video, many fans kept coming over those last 4 decades, and for them, ABBA gave an experience for the very first time, something those fans just never had, the release of a brand new ABBA album. At the same time, that experience was enhanced by merging it together with all the loyal fans that had those memories from many decades ago. How would it be one more time? That's how it was. Those first few notes, the visuals, it can never be matched. We will never have brand new ABBA music after a break of 40 years. It's impossible. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's a rare phenomenon. Very similar to a solar eclipse that we will now always associate with his music, with his album Voyage. But when I mentioned that the greatest thing with this album is the fact that we are talking about an album, or that all 4 of them are celebrated by the world, I was focusing more on the musical aspect. But really, the very best about Voyage is the fact that they are still here and that they are friends. I mentioned this in my first impressions a few days after the album was released. Beside the music, something else comes to my mind with Voyage. Bravery. They are over 70 years old. They've left the most majestic legacy already decades ago. Why should they do anything else? Well, if anyone can do it, it's them. They did the impossible. Not only did they make another album, they made it such a seamless part of the ABBA story. But for me, they did more than that. They made that story even more perfect with Voyage and so complete. Folks, that's it. With this video, with our series. But we know there is more to come. It's just around the corner, and it's what really brought us an entire new ABBA album. It's the Voyage concert experience that started it all. They worked on this show, and during that time decided, let's do another album as well. Usually, ABBA made their albums and then went on tour. And I want to explore that. I want to dive deep into every ABBA concert tour. I want to explore the history of those tours, the musicians and set lists, the recordings, just about everything. It will lead us right into the historic Voyage opening at the end of May. If you want, we will be starting soon with the very first tours. But for now, I am very curious, what is your experience with ABBA's album Voyage? What are your favorite songs? Which songs grew on you? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, until then, hey do!
I wish someone would write a love to freedom and Leo.